Hi all, thank you for joining the webinar with the Roads and Transport Authority. We're going to start in around 5 minutes because I know a few more people are joining in the next few minutes. So in about 5 minutes is when we're going to start the webinar. Thank you. All right, hello everyone. My name is Karen. Welcome to the webinar for Dubai Future Accelerators with our partner, the Road and Transport Authority. Can you let me know if you can hear me well?
Yes.
Yes, fantastic.
Yes,
thank you so much. Thank you for taking the time and joining us. Before we begin, I just wanted to let you know that the webinar will be recorded, audio recorded, as well as the slides, and we will place it on YouTube after our conversation so that other people who are not able to join us today can listen in. Here's a brief overview on what we're going to be discussing in the next 1 hour, 1.5 hours. First of all, I'll give you a brief overview of Dubai Future Accelerators and our upcoming cohort, which is cohort number 7. We're quite excited that our partner Roads and Transport Authority is on board again. They have been with us since the beginning, so we've worked with them for the past 3 years. And they've set some really exciting challenges, 3 in total, and we're going to focus on each specific challenge. Then we're going to briefly touch upon the application process as well as the deadline. And then we open up the floor to questions towards the end. So if you have any questions, I would appreciate if you can take a note now and then ask them at the end. All right. I'll briefly also ask my colleagues from the Roads and Transport Authority to introduce themselves. I have Fatma and Alan with me.
Hi everyone, I'm Fatma Ibrahim from Future and Visioning section from RTA. And I have my colleague also, Alan.
Hi everybody, this is Alan Ruddock. I'm also working with Fatma and the team at the Future and Visioning section.
Fantastic, thank you so much. All right, so let's talk about Dubai Future Accelerators. I'm not sure how familiar you are with our program. It's actually an initiative by Dubai Future Foundation, and Dubai Future Foundation is an organization by the government of Dubai. We consider ourselves as a startup as well because we are very young, we're around 4.5 years old. The mission of the Dubai Future Foundation is based upon a quote by His Highness, the ruler of the Emirate of Dubai. And the quote reads, "The future belongs to those who can imagine it, design it, and execute it." And our program, Dubai Future Accelerators, is related to the part of designing the future. Now, we are not a traditional startup accelerator, we are more a market entry or business development accelerator. And the reason why we are called accelerator is actually because our mandate lies in speeding up the innovation in the government. So we connect startups and scale-ups from around the world with government partners and private sector organizations from Dubai to work on specific challenges. So these challenges are predefined projects. Why do we need to buy future accelerators? Well, very simple. When you look at the current procurement process of government organizations, as well as private sector organizations, it's very difficult and sometimes even impossible to work with startups, since most startups don't really have a track record. From a regulatory perspective, we can't work with them, which means that A, we miss out on the innovative solutions that you all provide, and B, most of our government partners are also the regulators in their field. So it's important they work with you from the beginning to really understand your solution and how they can benefit their services. Dubai Future Accelerators is a program that runs for 9 weeks. So companies that get selected get invited to 9 weeks for an in-residence program in Dubai, and we refer to it as cohort. And we cover travel, visa, and accommodation for 3 full-time members from your team. So if you get selected, you can bring 3 team members to Dubai. And in contrast to other accelerators, we don't take any equity. So what we need is your time commitment and your effort during the 9 weeks, but there's no financial commitment from your end as such. What's going to happen during the 9 weeks in Dubai? This is the question that we usually get asked. And it's quite simple. On the one hand side, you work with, for example, Fatma and Alan from the Roads and Transport Authority to clearly understand why have they set this challenge? What is important for them? What are they envisioning in achieving or solving this challenge? And what have they tried in the past? If possible, they also give you some data and you run a small proof of concept. So during the 9 weeks, you do your best to convince Fatma and Alan that your solution is the best solution, the right solution for the specific project, so that they work together with you in the long run. Now, in addition to this, we understand that most of our participants actually coming to Dubai for the very first time. And of course, we run workshops around introducing you to the local business culture, because it is different than in other regions. We also have a workshop on setting up an office in the UAE, in case you're interested in setting up an office during or after the program. We also run a workshop on how to work with local and regional media, because I think it's important that when you have a successful project, that you share it and you talk about it. In addition to this, our branding director runs a workshop on the importance of how to build your brand from a visual as well as from a storytelling, from a narrative perspective. Furthermore, we also want you to, in the 9 weeks, of course, prioritize your partnership with the Road and Transport Authority. But the great thing is that you're embedded in an ecosystem called Area 2071. And in this ecosystem, we have multiple private and government organizations. So in addition, for example, the Road and Transport Authority, we have Dubai Police, we have the Health Authority, Dubai municipality, and so on. But we also have private sector organizations, and I'm going to show you them in a few minutes. We run various community events, as well as we introduce you to investors if you're interested in meeting with regional investors, because we really want you to leverage the 9 weeks here in Dubai and understand whether on the one hand side, there's an opportunity for you to work with the Road and Transport Authority in the long run, but also to see if there are other opportunities for you in Dubai or the United Arab Emirates as such. Where are we located? This is usually a question that we get. In case you have been to Dubai, you might be familiar with the Emirates Towers. So those are the 2 towers you see in front of you right now. And you see in the back, Burj Khalifa, the largest building in the world. We're located on the ground floor, and our space is called Area 2071. And as mentioned earlier, we have private sector organizations, we have government organizations and startups working from this office space, which spans over 2 levels. And the private sectors we have on board are Emirates, Microsoft, IBM, Ernst & Young, Pfizer, P&G, and so on. So during the program, if there is a fit, we can also introduce you to those partners. All right, this is everything with regards to our upcoming cohort at Dubai Future Accelerators in Area 2071. I'm going to highlight the details about the application process and evaluation process in a bit, but now I'd like to hand over to Fatma and Ellen to discuss the challenges with you, as well as the overall mandate of the Road and Transport Authority, RTA.
Hi, everyone. RTA is responsible about all the transportation, operation, and implementation, and also regulation in Dubai and between Emirates. Other Emirates were in Dubai, so we provide tram, buses, shared mobility in future. So everything is transportation in Dubai, we are responsible about it. So we have in this cohort 3 challenges. The first challenge is about smart monitoring technologies for counting and dynamic. The second challenge is about what's the futuristic method for wayfinding, like AR. And the third one is about utilizing the current environment to cool down the pedestrian zone. So we are here to hear about your questions. So if you have any question regarding these 3 challenges, we are here.
But do you want to briefly touch upon each challenge, what exactly you're looking for? So in smart monitoring, what exactly is it that you're looking for?
So we are looking here, there's a lot of technology in monitoring, but we are trying here to, what's the kind of technology that it will be very easy to implement. We don't need to do something very new and from zero. Maybe we'll utilize what we have as an app and try to count, and also to be less cost. There's a lot of method is costly that we are thinking about what's the innovative way that we can do it. Mm-hmm. Do you want to add something about it, Ellen, for the first challenge before we go to the second?
No, I just to signal that this is increasingly important in designing and implementing new modes to understand people's patterns, where they go, what time they go, the number of people. There are ways of doing it, but as Fatima has said, we're looking for some innovative approaches to doing that.
I think what's also important to mention for all of you, in case you're not aware of it, actually Dubai is the host of Expo 2020 next year, starting on the 20th of October. So assuming, or it's predicted that we'll also receive an increased number of tourists to Dubai to then hopefully also use the public transportation system. So I think this is also very important leading up to the Expo. Fantastic. So this is the first challenge, smart monitoring. Going to the second challenge, futuristic wayfinding. Fatma, you mentioned augmented reality.
Yes, this is one of the methods. What we want right now, we have wayfinding, but it's all physical and it's consumed time to change it, especially when we have developing a new map or new route. Today we have here stops, we want to change it. So we need to change all the physical one. So if there is a new methodology that it will be easier and dynamic to change and reach more people. And we have tourists, a lot of tourists coming here. So we want it also to be dynamic in language, so it can understand with more people that will come to buy for a certain time. So if you have one of the method is AR, but if you have other thing, we are happy to see it. Do you want to?
Yeah, again, with we're thinking of planning to implement new modes, as I said, including potentially what we call micromobility modes, so scooters, bikes, and other innovative devices. And you know, the interchanges at metro stations, other stations between modes could be getting more complicated because of that. And if people are going to use it, we need to make them find their way easily. And even with existing stations, it's sometimes not easy, as I'm sure you've all experienced at times in different places. So we want this to be as smooth and seamless as possible.
Fantastic. So this was the second challenge. Our third and last challenge is innovative cooling. I think you're all aware that Dubai has a very specific climate. And while right now the weather is absolutely pleasant, it's not like this throughout the whole year.
Yes, so you will come in the best time to Dubai,
yes,
which is in the winter. But if you are here in August, you will understand this challenge more. The weather here is very hot and humidity is very high, even at night. So what we try, usually we consider them as a challenge. So here we are thinking why we don't consider them as a source of energy. And instead of using it as a challenge, the hot weather, we need to fight it, we will use it as a source. So if there is something technology or you have an idea of converting this to a benefit to Dubai, we are happy to listen to it. It's very new concept. We understand that, but we thought maybe you will have an idea that we are not aware.
Yeah, not much more to say. We already have solar panels for bus shelters and things like that.
Yes.
So there's obviously, when you have a lot of sun, there's one obvious way to use it for energy for cooling, but you know, that's not always practical for various reasons. And if there are clever ways that you can come up with using new or maybe even older technologies that just need some tweaking, we'll be very keen to hear about them.
Fantastic. So those were the three challenges. So it was innovative wayfinding and smart monitoring and innovative cooling. Before I open the floor for the Q&A, just briefly touching upon the selection process. If you have already filled out the application, we are currently reviewing your application. And here we have a two-way approach. So two people will review each applications independently, and they will add a score. If your average score is minimum, it matches the minimum score or higher, you will be passed on to the second stage. And the second stage is a phone interview with the Dubai Future Accelerators team. It's around 15 to 20 minutes. And during this interview, we'll clarify a few points that we maybe are not really sure about based on your written application, but we also allow you to ask any questions that you might have. Also, some of you applied to more than one challenge, which is okay. So you can apply to up to 3 challenges. And in the phone interview, we clarify which of the challenges is your preferred one. If you pass the phone interview, we then pass you on to the Roads and Transport Authority, and they evaluate the shortlisted applicants. Once they have done this, they select between 4 to 6 companies, and they invite them to their cohort. So by around mid-December, we will know who the companies are. And the companies that get selected will then join stage 4, which is the onboarding. Onboarding simply means that we organize your flight, visa, and accommodation for, as mentioned earlier, up to 3 full-time members. And then just before you come to Dubai, we'll arrange for another webinar where we go with you through the program calendar. We answer questions about the workstations you find in the office, any questions you might have with regards to dress code, and anything else to make sure that you feel comfortable when you arrive in Dubai. So this is the application process. The deadline is November 17th at midnight Dubai time. I would now like to open the floor for questions. If you can just type your name, and then I will, in the chat, so just if you can type your name, and then I can unmute if you then can unmute your speaker, and then we can take your questions. So if anybody has a questions, okay, we have Nart. If you can unmute your mic, please, and then ask the questions. And please let us know which challenge is related, that your questions is still related to.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you so much, first of all, for doing this webinar. It's actually very helpful and actually answered a lot of what we have in our mind. My question is not actually a question. I just want you to explain a little bit more about monitoring challenge, because when you talk about monitoring and it's an RTA monitoring, you are talking about million opportunities there. Because we already have experience in IoT where we digitalize stuff, facial recognition, plate recognitions. So what exactly of monitoring? Monitor numbers, what kind of data you want to collect. So we want more detail about this challenge, please.
Okay, fantastic. So Nart, if I understood you correctly, your question is related to the first challenge, which is smart monitoring, with regards to what are the indicators that RTA is looking at getting out from the monitoring aspect?
Yes, what's the indicator and what's the outputs?
Fantastic. Yeah. Alan?
Yes, thanks for the question. I think actually, in terms of the types of technology or approaches, we are very neutral on this. What we are really looking for are ways that can help us to understand how people are using public transport and actually connecting between modes of public transport, their behaviors as well, maybe around stations, metro stations in particular, and otherwise, where do they go, how do they arrive there, and where do they go from there? And as we mentioned before, we're aware that there are a number of a lot of different technologies around, and indeed I'm not familiar with exactly how, but I know that we use some of them already. But we're just keen for new ideas on that, and particularly things that can be implemented in a light way without large amounts, particularly of costly and complicated to maintain infrastructure. So yeah, that's probably all that I can say. It's a little bit repeating what I said before. Fatima, did you want to add anything to that can clarify?
Alan explained it very well. What we want really is something light that it will not cost us that much. Also, it's futuristic and innovative way. We have the ordinary ways that we are familiar most of, as you said, there is a lot of tools, but is there some tools that it's very easy to do it and implement it, and it will give us what's the behavior of the people without changing a lot of infrastructure, like putting a lot of sensors, can we use something else? And also we cannot force people to do something. So we are thinking about something easier for people, instead of bringing people to come and participate. Is there something that we do that without interfering or forcing people to do something, or bringing people like a survey, other innovative way we are not aware of? So that's our thing, and it will be very easy to implement and less cost than the other ordinary ways.
Yeah, and it may be innovative in the sense, I think Fatima was alluding to, it may be an app or something that people put on their phone, and in that case, what is the benefit for them from that? I mean, because if you're asking to get information from people in this way and to actually have some interesting information on their behavior around public transport, then maybe you can connect that somehow with something that gives them something in return. And we're very open to different ideas on that.
Fantastic. Nart, does this answer your question?
Thank you so much for the answer. It covers part of it. Still, it's vague for us, but that's fine. Our team, we will put as much options as we can, and then once RTAs see it, because the way we look at it, because you want it to be futuristic, which means it needs to be something to do with IoT. And I totally respect the fact that we don't ask anything from the people. So whatever solution we need to bring up, it should not get people involved. We don't have to ask them to install an app or to do a survey or do something like that. It actually should be automated, where our solution will actually collect the behavior data of those people and actually come out with useful data to make it information, so it can help RTA and it can actually serve the point of this challenge. But that's why it's called a challenge. We need to find a solution.
That's true, yeah. And actually in the application form, we ask you to specify what your solution would be, to have a bit of a better understanding. So I think the ideas that you have, you can then add all of the details in the application form.
Yes, exactly. You are right. Thank you so much. Thank you for answering.
Perfect. Next one we have Wessel, if I'm not mispronouncing your name. If you could please unmute your mic and also introduce yourself.
Yes. Do you hear?
We can hear you.
Can you
Yes.
hear me?
Yes, we
All
can.
right. Great. Thanks for the webinar. It's very clear and giving me the opportunity to get in touch with you. My name is Wessel van Berenonk from the Netherlands, and we are an architectural design and fabrication firm. We design architecture, and we have our own robot workshop where we develop 3D printing technology, 3D concrete printing technology. And I was interested in the challenge of the RTA of cooling, because at the moment we're designing and fabricating several 3D printed bus stops for the municipality, the city of Rotterdam in the Netherlands. Is this something that also can help because it can also work as a something that shades people, that casts shadow somewhere? So is that something that can be handed in for that RTA challenge?
Is it a normal shading? Any normal one? We here are thinking about
it's
futuristic thing. For it's something futures that be unique from the other shading that we cannot. We can for shading we can work with companies, but if you are providing something is very unique.
Yeah, I like to give you a better idea.
Sorry, no, continue.
Continue, yes.
It's a design. It's actually a cantilever that can be manipulated. So it's generated by an algorithm. So according to its contacts, it adapts to its specific location. I think that's something unique about this, and it's completely 3D printed in concrete. I think that's also quite unique on this product that we are designing. And we're actually looking for a launching customer. Like now we do one in the city of Rotterdam, but we actually think it can be much bigger when we add more robots to our workshop. We can print multiple unique shelters. But yeah, as I said, it's 3D printed in concrete.
So if you compare it
completely
to that we have today in time, and according to time and the cost, and easy to move it to another place because it's 3D, you can't compare it. If you want to convince RTA, you're supposed to compare it with the thing that they already have. Like, is it to be moved? Is it easy to be implemented? It will reduce the time. It will reduce the heat that it consumes. Something like that.
If I could just say, I think, to be honest, with regard to this challenge, as Fatima started out saying, you would have to find some justification for cooling beyond the simple shade. The technology sounds interesting anyway, and you can certainly send it to us to look at outside of this if you want. I think for the cooling, if you can do, some that's why I said not necessarily very modern techniques, but new versions of older techniques. If you design structures in particular ways, you can encourage airflow, for example, through them, which can effect. You would have to give some thought to it, and maybe 3D printing would make that kind of thing more doable. So think of ways that you are bringing cooling somehow, reducing temperature, rather than simply shade. I think for this challenge, I wouldn't want you to waste time on it, because I think we would in the end compare with our specification here and say yes, but where is the additional cooling?
Okay, but and how could I reach out to you?
So basically, I think if you can still just fill out the application form, and then I'll put up the email address at the end of our webinar. So you can also send me an email with maybe, I don't know, if you have a deck or if you have a new video that shows your 3D printing technology. I'm then going to pass it down to Fatma and Ellen.
All right, great. Yes, that's very helpful. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you so much. Next up, we have Oli.
Hello, can you hear me properly?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, perfect. I'm from Westengine. We are from UK, and actually we combine 3D techniques with the IT solutions. So our question is, do you have? So we are actually interested in the wayfinding application. So our question is the first one, whether you are using currently any type of wayfinding. So that's the first question. And next question is how much time
Jazeker.
how much time do you have for that development? Is it for the start of 2020 Expo, or this is just the development? So what's the deadline for the first launch of that solution for the wayfinding?
So just, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So just to recap, you have two questions related to the futuristic wayfinding challenge. The first one is, what kind of wayfinding methodologies RTA is currently using? And the second one, what would be the time horizon to develop something? As in, when would RTA want to install these technologies?
Yes, exactly. Thank you.
Okay. I think that in terms of the time frame, first of all, we're not specifically, we don't require specifically to implement at a certain point in time. The only time frame that is fixed at this stage is the 9 weeks of the accelerator, and what you should be thinking about what you could do as a proof of concept or a small pilot during that time. But the implementation is not determined by Expo necessarily. So don't worry too much about that. Just something which would be feasible and would have the potential to be implemented successfully afterwards. What was the first question?
The first one is, what kind of wayfinding methodologies we currently use?
Yeah, I mean we have
a basic one,
which
is physical, and we have Suhail, that it's an application. It will give you, it's a transportation planning application. So from there you can know where is the location of the bus station and how you can reach to the other. But
yeah, so it's not. I mean, Suhail is our application for journey planning,
yes.
Which a number of cities have, and not too different from Google Maps how they do it as well. So you can see where the different stations are depending which direction you're in. But we want to go well beyond that. We know, for example, actually the Dubai Mall, I think the largest mall here in Dubai, has implemented something. You have an app that you have on your mobile phone, which supposedly, although I have to be honest, it doesn't always work perfectly, can guide you around this very, very large mall. You definitely need a solution for that. So what the kind of thing we're thinking of is something that would guide you through your smartphone, or maybe some other thing that you're wearing, your AirPod, or maybe cleverer than that, and eventually some form of augmented reality, maybe sort of glasses or whatever, so that you can actually don't have to have the signs physically out there. That's the kind of direction that we see this going in, and we think it can make a really big difference to people's comfort in taking public transport, because a lot of people just get lost, not just here, but in many places. So that's the sort of thing that we're looking for.
Does that answer your question?
Does this answer your question?
Yes, thank you. Thank you
Yeah,
very much.
yeah. Fantastic. Great. Next up, we have Shamir. If you could please unmute your mic as well.
Yeah, hi Karen, hi Fatma, and this is Shamir from Habits. So we're interested in challenge 1, which is about the smart monitoring. I think Nat had asked some questions which kind of helped us as well, but we'd like to understand a bit more about what the dynamic signaling would be, and how it would help RTA.
So the smart monitoring. Sorry, I didn't hear that last bit.
Yeah, can you repeat again?
So my question was regarding the dynamic signaling that you've mentioned on the challenge. and how it's how you see that's going to help, and what exactly you mean by the dynamic signaling and the challenge.
For example, the bike sharing. Today, if I implement the bike sharing, I want to understand how people will use it. So in future, if I want to expand the service, I know where to put it and how to put it, what people will like. So instead of only a survey, which is ordinary way, is there another way that I can use a dynamic signaling like people are using from here to here, like digital twin method? So I will understand better people where are using it more, so I can enhance my, or when I want to expand it, I know where is the location.
Okay.
A very simple example. Is this answer your question? Maybe Alan will add.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, maybe dynamic signaling. You're understanding that as meaning something sort of different from the type of signaling that we have at the moment. It's not so much that it's dynamic in the sense that you can adapt it to different locations, different types of behaviors. So it's not talking about the signaling system itself. It's just the potential to implement it rapidly in different areas to get the information quickly,
Okay.
and to be able to potentially adjust things dynamically on our side as well. So we can look at these behaviors, how they're changing, and then we can actually make changes and adaptations at the RTA.
Yeah, exactly. And if we
Sure.
change it, how the behavior will change. And if we change the location of the bus stop, how the behavior of the people change. It is enhanced or not. So it's supposed to be easier to change it.
So basically, Fatma, and if I understand correctly, we're really looking into how can we understand the behavior of our users and
yes.
also the needs, right? So, for example, if we change a bus stop or if we change, I know, any other stop, how all of a sudden do they react? Is it positive? Is it negative? Also seeing, let's say, if there's a specific metro station where we see like there's always a bit of a crowd, what else can we do there? You know, like, is there a way for us, for example, to install last mile solution? So really understanding. Yeah. Shamir, does this answer your question?
Yes, that does give a bit more clarity in terms of the challenge. So from, and you can correct me, so what we understand is the objective is to probably look at understanding, what's the behavior of the crowd, the rider behavior, understanding possibly the demographic of people that's using the public transport system, etc.
Yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, okay. Fantastic. Great.
Sounds good. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Shamir. Do we have any other questions? And feel free to really ask any questions, anything that's unclear for you, anything that you think, oh, actually this information would be really relevant for me when I fill out the application form or when I decide whether my solution is a good fit for any of the challenges. So I'm just going to keep it open for another 2 to 3 minutes. And just write your name in the chat if you have any question. In the meantime, yes, Shabazz? If you want to unmute your phone, your mic, and then ask the question, please.
Hello.
Hello, yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, thank you so much, everyone, for this wonderful presentation. So my name is Shabazz, and we help companies boost revenue and improve ROI on innovation spent. So we essentially help organizations to fail fast, fail early, and find the right problem. The crux of this is the innovation assessment framework, which is a recursive process, which helps you to recursively go through a particular problem and identify the actual bottlenecks associated with the problem and the allied vertical. So with the same aspect, my question is on the first challenge, wherein Fatma mentioned that we're looking for a cheaper and a more efficient alternative. So what are the present bottlenecks, and what are those methods that you're using at the moment, and what is the associated cost with that? If you could just give us a heads up, a high level heads up, it will be great.
So Shabazz, thank you for your question. Just to recap, we're looking into what is the current, like the status quo of smart monitoring for RTA at the moment. What kind of solutions is RTA using, if so, if any? Is this correct?
Yes.
Fantastic. So smart monitoring, is this something that you're currently covering in RTA?
From the journey planner, we understand certain event, and also we do some surveys in the public stations, and also we have some sensors that but we don't have it in for the walking and last mile modes. We have a very difficulty on that. It's more like a bicycle, scooters, the new things that it will come. We don't have a lot of sensor. We only have surveys for them to understand where they are going and what they are using.
So basically the current system is, sometimes it's manual because it's about questionnaires in the stations, and it's more fragmented. So there are certain parts which we are able to monitor, but we're not monitoring the whole journey at the moment. Okay.
For example, we have data from the travel, the RFID travel card.
Yes, also from NOLs, we have
which is called the NOL card. Here, it's the one that you use to pay for your public transport journey. So that information is there, but that's while you're in the metro or in the bus, and no information about what you do, how you get from the metro to the bus, for example, is a good example, or what you do
mile,
outside.
we don't have that much information, and only manual one, which is surveys. That's what we have. So we are focused more on the last mile, how they reach the bus station or how they reach the metro.
Interesting. Yeah. Shabazz, does this answer your question?
Yes. And how much are you spending at this moment on this entire process?
If you are on board, then we will give you more detail.
So once you're confirmed, you'll be able to access these details from RTA. At the moment, the number is unfortunately confidential.
No worries, I can completely understand.
Thank you, Shabazz.
Thank you so much.
Do we have any other question? In the meantime, let me put up the slide again with our website as well as our email address. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out afterwards. It's cohort@DubaiFutureAccelerators.com. Application deadline is on November 17th, midnight Dubai time. And we will also be uploading the webinar on our YouTube channel tomorrow. So in case any of your colleagues missed it today and they want to listen in, they can do so. We'll just keep it up for 1 or 2 more minutes. If there are any questions, please type your name in the chat now. All right, I think we have come. There's one last minute, Amir. That was
waiting for your message to say.
Great, Amir. If you can please unmute your mic and ask your question. Amir. If you can please, I think your mic is unmuted. We don't hear you yet. Amir?
The microphone is not working.
Yeah, what you could do as well, since we don't hear you, would you mind just posting your question in the chat room? Yeah, I can't hear you. So you have a question about monitoring cameras. If you can just type your question, we'll read it out loud, and then Fatma and Alan will answer it for you. So I just give you the time now to please write your question in the chat box. See? All right, we'll just give Amir some time to write a question. Perfect. So Amir's question is, with regards to smart monitoring, do you use monitoring system that rely on CCTV? Does your cameras cover the routes or stations only? So basically, for the smart monitoring currently, do you use CCTV? And if so, so CCTV, and the cameras, are they stationed in the are they placed in the stations and in the?
Or do they go outside stations?
Yeah.
I think they have both, and now we have ECQ. We are working to connect all the data that we have. But
yeah, I'm I'm not 100% sure. My feeling is that the RTA will have some cameras within the station, probably more for security, honestly, than for monitoring. I'm not sure. I would imagine they're quite likely not used currently for monitoring, or not used systematically for monitoring. And I'm fairly sure that RTA would not install cameras outside of the stations. Maybe at the entrance to the stations, for example, but not like along routes. There would be other cameras installed, probably again for security around the stations, but not by RTA. Some of that is what I've just said is supposition. But if you had some ideas that were to do with using cameras, that might be interesting, although potentially quite complicated to kind of interact with existing systems. So it might be a little bit more complex a solution. But if you have an innovative solution that, again, is not too, doesn't require too much infrastructure, expensive infrastructure installation, then potentially we would be interested in hearing about that.
The great thing is about our cohort, so if you get selected, Amir, and this also applies to the rest of you, this is exactly why we bring you to Dubai for 9 weeks, so that you can see on site what is the infrastructure we have, what are we working with, and how can we utilize it, and then also run a small POC to really prove that your technology can be applied. So this is why it's for 9 weeks. Great, Amir, does this answer your question? And I also see Nart. Yes, perfect, thank you. Nart, going back to you. Please, if you can unmute your mic.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Perfect. I just want to also to ask, just to add on Amir's question, because Amir's question is very something that we all think about for solution number one. Because we're looking for a cheap, let's say less costly solution, which means we would all like to use whatever infrastructure you already have. And from the answer I got from you now is that there are some limitations, because for CCTV cameras, it's very easy to implement some AI technology where I know the cameras are for security, but still we can read data and make it convert this data to information that will be very helpful for behavior. So
well, I mean, yes,
that RTA has limited number of cameras, like inside the state, maybe outside, but the others are outside of for Dubai Police. But my question is, and I think Amir is trying to go through is will we be able, for example, if we put a solution that we can integrate all those cameras together, or you would be able to get us access to do that? Our solution be only focused to RTA assets only.
I mean, again, we can't speak, any of us, definitively on that. I think that if you had a solution that could interface with RTA cameras and that didn't cause any disruption of what they are usually used for, then I think there's a good chance that we, as Karin says, during your time here, we could enable that discussion and see if that could be managed, and potentially even before, if it was important for you to know that with regard to the application. And yeah, I think, yeah, as you say, leveraging existing assets is always a good thing. You know, in terms of where the cameras are pointed and whether it would be the same kind of useful view for security cameras as it would be for like observing people, I'm not so sure.
To be honest with you, because the way we look at it is that we can tackle more than one problem at the same time, because we can achieve the monitoring while, for example, with this data, we can also increase the happiness rate in Dubai, which is also something very important that Dubai government really asks for, because with this monitoring system, if we can actually those assets, we can identify behaviors, we can identify crowd areas where we can make it less customers, more happy customers, increase happiness in Dubai. So on what we actually can access is actually our limits.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, I mean, I think we agree here that potentially sounds interesting. If we could have the necessary discussions to see if that would not jeopardize the existing use.
Yeah, definitely. No, definitely.
Yeah.
It's not
So
going
I
to be a
think,
solution where we have to take other people as, it will be just sharing it. And because it already exists.
Okay,
yeah.
yeah.
Yes, but
So I
for a
think
reason.
now what would be great is in the application form, if you already have existing projects going on, made with other partners, maybe you can also mention and specify what it is and also what you would require. We actually have seen similar solutions being applied for Dubai Police to monitor
Yes.
behavior,
Yes.
as well as for the Dubai Electricity and Water Authority for their happiness or customer centers to understand the behavior and the emotions of customers. So we have seen this before. I think in the case of RTA, just need to understand where the current cameras located, what are they being used for, and how would your solution then be leveraged for ensuring smart monitoring.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, fantastic. Great. Smile, I also have a question here from you. Do you want to unmute your mic or do you want me to read out the question? Smile? Okay, otherwise I can also read out your question. So the question is there an interdepartment working group or exchange of data between Transport Department and say Education or DEVA, so the Dubai Electricity and Water Authority? Smile, could you just specify a bit more your question, please? Would it be possible to unmute your mic? Are you relating the question to any specific challenge, or is it just a question that is overall interesting for you? Smile. So maybe just I'm in the Dubai Dubai Future Accelerators cohort, along with the Road and Transport Authority, we also have the Dubai Electricity and Water Authority, Dubai Police, Dubai Municipality and Knowledge Authority, and others working at the same time, and they're bringing in their companies as well. What we have seen in the past is actually the collaboration between companies working with different government entities, but also between government entities. So for example, the Road and Transport Authority in the past was working with Dubai Police on a project, as well as with the Dubai Electricity and Water Authority. So we definitely want to enable this collaborative spirit. And the reason why we have created this ecosystem called Area 2071, where we have government, private sector, and startups working not only alongside each other, but also with each other, is to make sure that we drive forward innovation through collaboration. So I'm not sure if this answers your question. Yeah, thanks, Mike. Fantastic, great. Do we have any other question? I'll just leave the chat up for another minute to see if anybody wants to type their name.
Hello, thanks for dedicating your honorable time for answering our questions. I have one question. What are the criteria for the teams, for the selected teams? I mean, what are the main rules for selecting the teams? What are the criteria? What are the main rules? And at the after passing, as you mentioned in the email, we passed in about 9 intensive course in 9 weeks. After that, which teams are selected? What are the main? How do you evaluate the company's results after 9 weeks? Is it possible to, for example, to do a cooperation with the Dubai government after finishing 9-week intense course? Or I don't know what are the main rules. I didn't get enough information via email or after seeking in your sub website. Please explain it and how to get a better results for this goal. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Mohammed, for raising this question. It's indeed very important. I'm going to split it into two parts. The first part is, what are the criteria we look at when it comes to evaluating the applications? And the second one, I let Fatma then verify on what is their internal decision-making process to, at the end of the 9 weeks, say, yes, this is a company we want to work with in the long run. We sign an agreement to either then run a pilot project, post a cohort, or work on implementing the solution right away. So with regard to the application process, the first part is we have three main criteria. The first criterion is very obvious. Does your solution match the challenge? Very straightforward, right? If you're looking for something in the field of smart monitoring, do you have a solution that can be applied in smart monitoring? The second criterion is the degree of innovation. How innovative is the solution? And here we primarily look into what is it similar to other applicants? Is it similar to something that we know RTA has looked at before and maybe worked with a similar company in a previous cohort, because it's important that we don't repeat the solutions, but we find new one. And the third criterion is very straightforward and very, very important. Who are you? I mean, who is in your team? What's your background? Are you maybe a 19-year-old entrepreneur and this is your first company? Are you, let's say, a seasoned professional and you've worked in the private sector before and now you started your own company? Do you have a specific education in this field? Do you have, let's say, a PhD in machine learning or anything similar? Who is on your team? How are you structured? So this is what we're looking for. So this are the three criteria for deciding who's going to get selected to the program. And then RTA, of course, is again looking into who is the best fit for the challenge. During the 9 weeks, we actually have weekly tracking meetings. And at the beginning of the cohort, we decide on what do we achieve by the end of the 9 weeks? What kind of proof of concept can we conduct during the 9 weeks to really demonstrate to RTA that you are the right company to work with in the long run. And this is different from company to company, because sometimes we work with technologies that are very, very innovative. And for example, last cohort, we were working with a mobility company who was working on a very innovative mobility solution that doesn't even exist yet, really. So that was quite exciting. And then there were others who already has an existing solution, and it was all about localizing and adapting it. So we create this plan, this execution plan for 9 weeks. And I now hand over to Fatma to give a bit of an understanding of how does the internal process work like for RTA to make a decision on which of the companies to sign an agreement with at the end of the 9 cohort and continue working in the long run, and which of the companies where they realize actually, no, this is not a good fit for moving forward.
Yes, during the cohort, we think about the proof of concept. So at the end of it, do you have a clear plan what you are going to do after the 9 months? This is the first one. And what's then unique about you? What's the, in terms of time?
Yeah. Just go ahead.
Okay. So what is unique about your project? So you will make it more clear about during the 9 months. So you will prove concept in terms of numbers, like saying the time, the cost it will, the implementation wise, what I need as a requirement. So if you prove it, considering with the other alternative thing that is available, yes, we will do a pilot with you after that with a clear plan, what you are going to do after the cohort. So this it's a very important criteria for us, that you have a clear plan what you are going to do.
And also, of course, an important part of this plan, what we ask you as well is what kind of budget is required, right? What are the financial implications for RTA to also look into how does it fit within their budget for this or next year? Mohammed, does this answer your question? I think you're on mute if you want to unmute your mic. Okay, I take this as a yes. Do we have any other question? No? Fantastic. Well then, thank you so much all for taking your time. We really appreciate it. If there's anything that is not clear for you, please feel free to reach out to us via email at cohort@thebiofutureaccelerators.com. And then I'll forward the questions to Fatma and Alan. We hope to see you soon in Dubai.
Yes, please apply.
And of course, we look forward to receiving your applications and your solutions for the 3 challenges for the Roads and Transport Authority. Thank you so much, and have a good day.
So, Karen, sorry,
Oh.
just before you wind up.
Yes. Yes, please.
Yeah, sorry. So, just one follow-up question to the note we ended on. In terms of maturity of the solution, what are you expecting? Because from the discussion, it is evident that some problems are really on a high level and they're not specific or niche problems. So it's very seldom that someone will.
Shabazz, you're breaking up. So as I understand you correctly, you were asking about what level of maturity are we looking for when it comes to the solutions? And there's no straight answer to that because it really depends. As we mentioned earlier, we were working with a mobility company because their solution, although it's not, they're in MVP stage, their solution was so interesting for us to take a look at and see it, how it can benefit Dubai actually in 5 years down the line. So not right now. But then we have seen other solutions where we know that the company has already worked with previous clients and it's all about customizing and adapting and localizing it. So there's no one straight answer for that. It really depends about how clear is your idea and how can you prove in the 9 weeks that yes, you are the right fit for RTA. May the solution be something that you already have at hand, or is it something that you will develop in the near future? Does this answer your question? Yeah?
Yeah. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Great.
Sorry for
Mohammed?
another question.
Yes, please, go ahead.
Are the evaluation are based and focusing on technology-based technologies and companies, or those who have a physical prototypes? You know, some accelerators are focusing on the web-based startups, and some of them are not focusing on those that kind of projects that are not based on web projects. You know, what I mean is that our company is incorporated in Estonia, and we have a physical product. Now, could we have a good results in Dubai accelerators? Thank you.
Thank you for the question, Mohammed. So what we are looking for is a solution. And a solution can either be a software-based solution or a product-based solution. So both are is what we're looking for. Does this clarify the point, Mohammed?
Thank you. I get it. Thank you.
Perfect. Great. Do we have any other question? A last round, of course.
Excuse me, when is the time for do pitching? In the filling form, there was not a blank form for attaching our pitching or something like this. When's the time for do pitching?
So basically, in the application form, it's a standard form where we don't ask for anything to be uploaded because we want to receive the same kind of information from each of the applicants. What you can do is if you get shortlisted or even get invited to the first interview, you can share further details with the person you'll have the interview with, or then with the Road and Transport Authority, if you think it adds value to the conversation that you will have.
It's really would be valuable, and please put the link or the email for a connection to send our pitchings if possible. If not necessary, so anyway, we'll leave it.
Yeah, so for now, Mohammed, if you can just fill out the application form, and then if you get passed on to the next stage, then one of our colleagues will reach out to you to schedule the call, and this is where you can share further details about your solution.
Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Perfect. Great. Do we have any other question, a final question from the audience? No, then I guess thank you all for taking the time. We really appreciate it. As I just put up the email again, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. The deadline is November 17th, so coming up soon. And yeah, thank you for your time.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye.
Thank you for your time.